Reanimal is a horror game released in 2026 by Tarsier Studios, the same studio that made Little Nightmares 1 and 2. Now, I'm gonna get this out of the way right away. This video will have zero comparisons between the Little Nightmares series and the game Reanimal. This is strictly an evaluation of the psychology and a little bit of writing from the Reanimal game. The two franchises honestly cannot be compared because of how different they both feel. The Little Nightmares franchise will not be used as a reference point or examples at all during this video. And with that out of the way, let's get into this. Reanimal follows a brother and a sister as they rummage through their war-bound world to save their three friends from monsters, metaphors, and monumental set pieces. When I finished Reanimal, I was left with an emotion I can only describe as... I felt conflicted, like a piece of the puzzle was missing. So we are going to go deep into this game and figure out why Reanimal might need a re-evaluation. Now I want to say right off the bat that I truly believe this game is incredible. It has amazing scares, it's a technical marvel, it looks stunning, but unfortunately all of that is not enough to cover up the wounds we got fighting through the trenches. So, to begin, I wanted to take a look about what makes the game scary and what gets us feeling that sense of dread and constant stress. When we go inside of our brains, we find the temporal lobe, which even deeper inside there, we find the amygdala, which is the section of our brain that controls our fight or flight reflex, or otherwise known as our acute stress response. This is a primal survival instinct hardwired into our brains to keep us alive. For those who don't know, the way this response works is when we sense imminent danger, i.e. a bear rushing at us from the woods, our brain will clock this immediately, stop digestion, boost our heart rate, and tensen all of our muscles, essentially getting us ready to run really fast or fight really hard. And while it's not exactly the same as being attacked by someone in real life, when we are playing a video game and we see a spooky guy pedaling at us at Mach 10 on a tricycle, we're still going to make those split decisions to get away as fast as we can. This might be part of the reason as to why when facing certain enemies in Reanimal, such as the children made of dust from the schoolhouse, you might instinctively run away, yet then double back and decide to smash them over the heads with your crowbar. Basically, if a big thing makes big loud noises and moves fast, your brain goes, oh no, run. Yet sometimes you make a decision too quick and then you need to go back and your brain goes, wait, let's fight. So it really depends on the situation, but in basic layman's terms, that is the very rough explanation of fight or flight. Now of course that isn't the only way to provoke fear in someone. Another big aspect of fear is the existential feeling of dread and anxiety. Now if you've seen my analysis on Metroid Dread, you will know all about this topic, but to repeat, dread is when you experience a crushing feeling of anxiety that basically whispers to you, yeah, we're screwed. Now, of course, nothing in psychology is the exact same for every person, and it's the same when it comes to dread. Different life experiences and stimuli may cause dread for some people, while others will have no reaction. Now, for the sake of the argument, we're going to use extremes to get the point across, so bear with me for a second. If you in the past were a boxer, and every time you fought an opponent, you faced this absolute mammoth of a man that crushed you within seconds, and if this happened every single time you stepped in the boxing ring, you were quickly going to feel dread stepping into that spotlight and waiting for your behemoth of an opponent to show himself. Yet, to the humble spectator, going into the boxing arena will have no dreadful effect on them because they are simply there to watch a show. While not a particularly good example, the fundamentals are still there. Now, horror games are often conditioning you from the very beginning to feel dread from certain aspects. Within Reanimal, this is most shown for either seeing glimpses of the area's main villain before fully seeing them, or being subsided by the colossal obstacles you face along your way. You quickly learn any big monster is going to scare your pants off, and any big cliffside or massive house is going to contain a long and hard, treacherous journey. Those two are Reanimal's main way of forming dread. It's simple yet effective and keeps us on our toes anytime we're waiting. Now you might think it would get too simple and too repetitive, yet the game instead will lure you into a false sense of security or keep our minds occupied with challenging puzzles, and then throw a nasty monster right in our face, spiking our brains and deciding if we run away or fight. Altogether, this is what creates the fear we experience in Reanimal. Of course, it is only amplified by the presentation of the game and the sound effects themselves. But, at its core, we all know that growling or scratching noises equals nothing good. and simply being unable to see literally anything equals lurking danger. We're trying to keep ourselves prepared for danger and thus get stress and dreadful experiences anytime we need to do it again. Overall, in the aspect of fear, Reanimal is super effective at scaring you half to death, mainly because of the fundamentals we mentioned before, but also because of its unique and original experiences that truly catch you off guard and catch us scrambling frantically for a solution. However, sometimes these fears don't really land, and that can be for a variety of reasons. And for Reanimal, in my opinion, it's because there are no consequences for letting down our main characters because they simply do not have character. This is my biggest issue with Reanimal, and that issue is that I'm not connected to these main characters in any way whatsoever. Aside from controlling the character literally called Boy, there is no connection the player has to these characters. I believe this is for two big main reasons. Number one, there's too many characters. There are 5 children in this game. In any story of any medium, having 5 characters takes a lot of time to get to establish, adjust, and learn and develop a connection to each character. In Reanimal, you only stay with the boy and the girl for the whole game, yet their little friends will run around, tag along with you for a few minutes, get eaten by a Muppet, come back, sit by the boat, get eaten again, and just don't do anything for the player's connection other than simply just being there. And even when they're there, they don't do much. And for reason number 2, it's because none of these characters have names, a personality, or any sort of defining characteristics that makes them unique. Honestly, I respect the studio for making any stylistic choices they want, but if I didn't even know the names of these characters, how am I supposed to feel connected to them? I can answer my own question by saying even if a character doesn't have a name and very minimal personality, showing the vulnerable, human, and scared side of these characters will help me be able to form an attachment by feeling empathy for them. Everyone is human. We've all been through hard moments in our lives. Even those can transcend mediums. You can feel bad for a character in a TV show or a video game if you see them physically interacting and looking like they are upset. Now, I've done 2 playthroughs of Reanimal so far, and the only human moment I've found is halfway through the game where you walk up next to this pig and pet it. That is it. In this entire game, there is only one real, vulnerable human moment, and without those moments, it makes it so difficult to form a connection to these characters. I also believe another big part of that issue is because in the game, it's balls to the wall violence and action every single second you're playing, which is awesome. Objectively, it's amazing. But again, if you want me to feel connected to these characters, if they're fearless little beasts who can kill anything they see, load live tanks, blow up a water zombie skin horse, bash in children's head with crowbars, throw things off cliffs, pilot a tank, run over a guy with an ice cream truck, and they don't show any other signs of humanity, it is nearly impossible to feel anything for these characters. I'm not going to feel for them like I will if I would see them cowering in the corner or simply being overwhelmed by how devastating their situation is. There's also not a single glimmer of hope in this game whatsoever. It is doom and gloom to the maximum. You don't get a single sliver of a chance of hope. It's just death and darkness and depression, and even the conversations between these characters can all be summed up as, "Why did you come back to save me? We're all gonna die." There's no words of motivation like, "Come on team, we can do this," and we don't need cliche corny dialogue, but seeing these characters actually act and help one another would be extremely beneficial to humanize them and see them more than just the lens to view this world through. In my opinion, it's too much doom and gloom and not enough humanity to make me feel a connection between these characters. Now I know, stories like Reanimal are insanely difficult to pull off. With minimal dialogue, challenging situations, insanely deep poetry and metaphors often leave the audience confused and almost like a piece was missing. I feel the main issue with Reanimal is simply that I don't feel for these characters. There's nothing that gets me attached to them. Nothing that makes me genuinely want them to be okay. Because when I experienced the ending, I wasn't devastated and floored by the actions or what led up to it. I was indifferent because there's no reason for me to feel any way else. The best way I can describe it is if I were to watch two birds fight over a French fry. I'm just gonna look at them and eventually go, whoa, the bird on the left got it. I'm not gonna be crushed and heartbroken that Mr. Bird on the right didn't get his food. It's just a situation that happens. With no connection to these characters, it eats away at the fear factor of some scenes. Specifically for me, in the schoolhouse scene with the fluffy spider Muppet monster thing that barfs up the children, that didn't feel scary at all. I didn't find it to have many surprising elements, it didn't make me worry for the safety of these characters, and by that point in the game, I knew what was to be expected by these monster chase scenes. I knew how the chases would feel, and what I would need to look out for, like the broken floors or the shelves blocking my way, and other obstacles like that. All the surprises, by then, were gone. Those elements fell flat in Reanimal, and since such a big part of anxiety and fear is being scared for your well-being and the well-being of others, without that connection to the characters, I simply can't find my body throwing everything it realistically can into fighting for these characters. And that leaves a huge part of the game feeling empty. Now, characters that serve as the audience lens can work, and that tactic has been used in some of the most popular stories of all time, but this is mainly used in stories that are more abstract or non-narrative, focusing heavily on what the feeling you get from the experience is, and rather the story you are telling. In Reanimal, you can tell that they are very much trying to make their story narrative. Even if it's very small and very metaphoric, there is still a goal, an obstacle, and an outcome. X happens because of Y, which causes Z. And since our main characters are acting as an abstract lens to the world itself, instead of this narrative story, it falls flat. And without a satisfying story and lack of connection to these characters and the outcome, all the effort we put into this grandiose adventure ends up feeling obsolete. Which is truly a shame. For a game filled with such crazy action, horrifyingly horrible moments, hype moments in aura, stunning set piece after set piece, and experiences like you'll never get anywhere else, without the glue of the connections to our main characters who are built into this world, all of that and this game entirely ends up tripping just before the finish line. It's a very conflicting place to be. Because like I said, this game is truly phenomenal, and having nitpicks to say does not diminish its value in any way. But if it's left this big of an impression on me, maybe it's something to address for future titles. In the end, this is still one of the best horror games I've ever experienced, and I truly have no regrets for ever buying or playing this game. Honestly, I love it so much, I hope Tarsier takes all the information they get and makes their next game even better. And I do have my faith in that company that they can make amazing games and amazing stories, and I truly cannot wait to see what they make next. I hope you enjoyed this analysis, and you should definitely let me know what games I should cover next. But anyway, thanks for sticking out till the end, guys, and I'll see you later.